So I've had a lot of people ask me recently how to use context in an essay. It's something that came up with one of my students yesterday, and she'd done like tons of pages of context notes, and then she was just like, I don't know what to do with these or how to put them in anywhere. So I thought I'd do a quick video for you guys too, just to explain what context is and how to use it. So firstly, context is any kind of background knowledge that enhances your understanding of the text in any type of way. It's quite a broad definition. So it can be stuff to do with the genre. So is it a play? If it's a play, is it a tragedy or a comedy? Is it a pastoral or gothic or postmodern or there's loads. I kind of forgot all the rest of the genres for some reason in my head, but you get the idea. So yeah, so you want to think about genre. We call this generic context to do with the genre. You also want to think about the writer, the author. We call this authorial context. So who are they? What do they write for? What are their particular themes and ideas? What kind of things interest them? What messages do they want to send to their readers? All of that kind of stuff is really important for getting to grips with the actual point behind a text. So instead of thinking of a piece of literature as like, you know, it's a story and this happens and this guy does that thing, you want to think of it as the story is a way into the messages. And what are the messages? So your authorial context and your genre or your literary context, the background of the literature that it is, these are two really important types of context to get into your essays. And I almost get at least some of that in every essay that I write. Other types are more to do with the society and the history and the politics of the time. So we call this historical, cultural, sociopolitical context. So what kinds of politicians were in power? What type of government was it? How was the society structured? What types of beliefs and values did they have in that culture? And what important historical events affected that particular book being written, or poem or play? So once you understand all of that, that's the way into context and what it is, and then how to use that, the other side of it, how to use it in an essay. You don't want to feel like it's tacked on, so you don't want to just like throw it in there. Don't ever put it in the intro unless there's a really specific reason. Like if you're doing a contextual type module where the whole focus is about context, which you tend to do kind of like in higher education, not so much at GCSE. If your questions are very contextual, then you can put it in your intro. Otherwise, avoid it in the intro, put it more in your middle paragraphs and use it to enhance and develop on a point that you've already made. So make your point first and then analyze that point and then use the context later on in the same paragraph to enhance what you're saying. So if I was making a point about, let me think now, I'm trying to think of like an essay I did recently. So I was doing Robert Frost essays. He's a nature poet and he's American. And he has this poem about walking through a wood and trying to choose paths in life. And when he wrote this poem, he was at a very difficult point in his life where he was trying to choose between being kind of like a normal person, like, you know, having a stable job, stable income, being a journalist, something like that, or actually just going down a completely wacky route of being a poet and trying to make it as a poet. And almost no one makes it as a poet when they try. I'm still in my process of trying myself. One day I will be a poet like Robert Frost. But yeah, so his own authorial context, the reason he wrote that poem, is really kind of enhanced. It's enhancing the point that you might make about being at a crossroads and making decisions, and that being like paths to take in life. So you can see how his personal authorial context boosts our understanding of what that poem is about. It's not just about walking through a forest and being like, oh, I don't know if I'll go this way or that way. It's actually a metaphor for life. And then he also wrote this to kind of help one of his friends who was really stuck at the time because the First World War was going on. He didn't know whether to join and enlist in the army in the war and fight for the cause, or just sort of wait it out and try and avoid what he saw as a responsibility. So he was torn between these two paths, these ideas of, do I take action and join the war effort, or do I actually kind of just wait it out and sort of hope it all blows over without my help or my input? So a lot of people interpret it as a poem that he wrote specifically to help his friend with that question. And if you go down that route, it helps you with your political, your historical, your cultural context. So you can see how you can make choices about context and you can make choices about points you're making. They all have to kind of harmonize and gel together. So it doesn't matter if you know 20 context points for Shakespeare. Don't put all of those in. Just put like 2 or 3 really good solid points that you can use to explore the original ideas that you're exploring in a more deep way with your context. So hopefully that's useful for you. Hopefully it's cleared stuff up and you're feeling a lot more confident about using context now.